This is BMW G310GS. Some people call it Baby GS, the smallest BMW GS in the range, and I will review it today for you. Okay guys, so today we will start in the small off-road. So let's start the engine. So this button turned off the ABS on the both wheels, on the both brakes, which is interesting, not just the rear one. And I think we can start. So the first things first, the engine has plenty of, it doesn't have a lack of power in the off-road, even in the steep hill, and that's the difference to Honda CRF 250 Rally, which has the longer ratio and smaller engine, and sometimes even the first gear is not enough. And the same with Royal Enfield Himalayan. So here in this category, BMW feels very good. The engine has plenty of torque and power basically in the off-road when you ride alone. The suspension, yes, now if you go to high bumps or jumps, probably not even jumps, but these sort of bumps, you feel the limit of the rear shock sort of quickly. It's not bad. I have still my 113 kilograms, but someone normal with 70 should probably be better. But overall, the feeling from the suspension is not bad. There is still these, long suspension travel, sort of 180 millimeters, more than most of the competition of V-Strom and let's say the Z300 Kawasaki. But basically, the feeling from the suspension is that it's definitely not that easygoing and friendly and comfortable as it would be on the 750 GS, 8GS, 800 GS, 850 GS or something like that. But we don't competitive. These sort of way expensive and stronger bikes, but rather with the bikes in the category. And I think this is very good. It's sort of an universal. It's not the Honda CRF 250 Rally, which can do the way more off-road, but it's not bad at all. Brakes, they are not that strong, which means that the initial, braking power, it's not that strong from the front one. So I think this is very good for most of the beginners. No problem at all. 19-inch front wheel. I would rather have their 21, but that's only on the CRF 250 Rally, and sort of, oh yes, it's not a standard. And I think for most of people, the 19 is okay. Metal Turrent tires, they do a very good job on a dry off-road. And what I truly like on this bike is the weight, 169 kilos wet wide, which means that it's really easy to manipulate with this bike, even if you get into the problems, or if you don't, if you have a problems, then it's very easy. It's way easier to get out rather than you would be on the bigger enduro like 1200 or anything like that. Right now, I can quite easy change the direction of the bike, even though that the surface it's very doesn't have much grip in the forest. But again, no problem. 169 kilos allows you to very easily manipulate the bike and have the power, have it in your hand. On the other hand, again, this is not a racing enduro bike or anything. Still 169. It's not really small number. But if you compare it with Versys 250 Himalayan or Z3, Versys 300 V-Strom 250 or Himalayan 400, this is the lightest motorcycle. So let's test the suspension a little bit more. Yes, here it has a problems. It's a stone surface, but it's fun. You can still ride it, but you will feel also the limit of the front one. But it can do it. It can do it, no problem. It can do it if you want to. This bike is not intended to do a massive, amount of off-road, like a very difficult terrain. but with occasional riding off-road to enjoy some adventure, to reach some lake or some unknown, you know, territory, I think it works very nice. One thing I would say is that I miss here the skid plate, the proper skid plate. There is just plastic, at least something. I also miss the radiator grille, a very important thing I would mount as soon as possible. Also, last thing, standing on the foot pegs, it's just sort of impossible for someone like me, 193 centimeters, and probably even hiring the handlebars wouldn't help that much, because yeah, the bike is still too small to me. So let's go on the road. So we tested the BMW G310 in the off-road and now on road. So I will tell you what I think. First of all, I have to say that I looked at a few, you know, reviews online, and I have to tell you that I am really kind of angry of, you know, sort of lack of objectivity in reviews. I understand the ecosystem of the reviewing the motorcycles because of I'm from marketing and it's like business world, but I saw many reviews saying like this is possibly the best adventure bike ever, or this bike can do all the off-road you want, and it's just so very, you know, so beautiful motorcycle. I mean, it has its qualities, but also it has a lot of disadvantages. I will tell you very soon. I would probably don't say that it's the best adventure bike in the world. I mean, if this is honest opinion of someone, okay, but I don't know. So my goal is to do it honestly, really, and I'm not under pressure of the importer or anyone who is renting me the motorcycle, because I'm just doing it. Sorry, I'm just doing it my way, and this will never change. So let's go. First of all, I sat on the, you know, on the BMW, and I was thinking that first of all, it doesn't remind me the bigger ones. It doesn't remind me the GS, only because of the, you know, label on the tank, and I didn't feel very comfortable. Of course, like 193 centimeters. Possibly this bike is not designed for me. I think 180 centimeters is okay for this motorcycle, but it means that if I am the owner of 1200 GS, and I would probably don't take the scenario of saying I need something lighter also to do my garage, to go to the city and traffic jams, so I'll buy the GS 310. Probably not, because I don't feel comfortable. And it's true that I can buy the higher seat, but I don't think it's the... I can be mistaken, I can be wrong, but I think it's not a matter of the seat, it's just a matter of I'm too big to this motorcycle. And but it's okay for anyone 180 centimeters. It's absolutely all right. And now the engine you are probably very interested in. Well, it's very smooth and nice when you go slow. You can cruise 60 kilometers per hour. It's very good for beginners because it will, you know, forgive you a lot of things. It doesn't really matter what gears you have, despite the fact that gearing is very, very short. But if you want some power, you really need to rev it high, which is not bad because it's actually fun. It's not the most fun motorcycle ever, of course, at all, but it's not boring at the same time. So I sort of enjoy it, especially in the cities. It's really fun there, and also the sound, which is not really special, but in the category, to be honest, it's most of the bikes are, any of them almost is anything special. Maybe the Himalayan was kind of a nice sound. So the sound is not that good, but it's better and louder when you go faster, and yeah, it sort of makes sense. The acceleration on 100 kilometers takes some time, and if you compare it with the Honda CRF 250, this is definitely stronger. Also, if you compare it with the Royal Enfield, it's lighter and stronger, and like you feel it, the acceleration top speed, which is here about 145, but it takes a lot of time to get it there. And to be honest, the cruise speed on the highway, 130 kilometers per hour, is not very comfortable because the engine revs, I think, 8,000 RPM, and you feel the vibration. So this single cylinder has the vibrations from the mirrors, to the mirrors and to the foot pegs and to the seat as well, but the mirrors and foot pegs are mostly, you know, visible. And but this mainly happened when you cross the 7,000 or 7,500 RPM range, where the maximum power, of course, is. But that's basically true. I think the cruise speed comfortable on the highway is about 110, and there is no problem. There are a lot of good things on this bike. Front brake. This is a Indian, like a company, subsidiary, I think, of the Brembo. I'm not sure exactly, but these brakes are the monoblock, radially mounted. It's the radially mounted front single disc caliper. Does a very good job. ABS, no complaints. So I have very good feeling about that. I'm very happy about suspension travel, 180 millimeters, because it really allows you the off-road. You saw that, and also it allows you a very comfortable ride, even on the bumps and broken asphalt. So I enjoy this one. Again, one of the best in the category. It's not the Honda CRF 250 Rally, but in comparison to the other bikes, it's a very comfortable and nice ride. You see that it's diving a little bit more, the front fork, but again, this bike is not on the you will not be riding it 160 kilometers in the corners, so I don't find this a problem. On maneuverability, I think this is a strong side of the motorcycle. Again, I read in one article like, this is one of the best, one of the most agile motorcycle ever. I mean, it's agile because of the weight, mainly 169 kilos. It's wet wide, it's beautiful. I mean, it's very good news, but at the same time, it has a sort of a long wheelbase and 19-inch front wheel. So there are, more agile motorcycles, such as BMW G310G or R, sorry, but and some other motorcycles with small displacement of engine and 17-inch front of wheel. But this is just a detail, because truth is that it's really agile and it's really fun to ride it in the city. I really enjoy it. Only thing is that it has a wide handlebars, and so it means that, again, like in the traffic jam, you have to be a little bit careful. But I really enjoyed it riding it in a Prague street, in the traffic jams everywhere, and revving the engine. And yeah, this is the place where I like it most, to be honest. The levers are non-adjustable for beginners, probably no problems, and it can be replaced very easily. The gearbox is like average. It's very easy to change the gear, but you don't have much feedback. So I mean, this is average, not bad, not good. The windshield almost none, and similar like the trend of 750GS and 850GS, but I mean, I'm used to it. I like naked bikes, so I don't care really, and people can buy it. But it's a lot of aftermarket things you need to buy, right? Oh, brakes, they're awesome. And when you hit the corners, actually out of the city, it's really fun to ride it. So yes, from this point of view, very good motorcycle. It is also really fun to ride it out of the city. Doesn't matter really whether the tarmac is good or bad. It's not bad. It's good universal or universal motorcycle. And now this brings us to the conclusion. And this brings us to the conclusion. It's very important for me to describe it properly. So I wouldn't compare this motorcycle with the bigger GS motorcycles at all. I would compare it, if I should compare it with new bikes, I would compare it with the category. So, and I think that despite the fact that this bike has a sort of a few disadvantages and weakness, I think it has a lot of advantages. And after, in the final sum up, it actually makes probably the most sense, probably from all the competition right now on the market, if I take the European market. So V-Strom 250 Suzuki is basically the Inazuma with the higher handlebars and some plastics, and it's a purely road bike. I wouldn't call it adventure, and I wouldn't buy it if I want to reach some unknown destination and enjoy Romania, etc. 17-inch front of wheels, etc., etc. But it has also 20 20 liters tank, which is the advantage in comparison to BMW, to be honest. Now, so I think I would choose BMW in these two. Then we have Honda CRF 250 Rally. If I think about this bike, I own it. I have it on the Canary Islands, and it's very interesting, way more capable off-road. But for many people, it's too much and too high. And if you are a girl, for example, I barely can, you know, ride the CRF 250 Rally. It's really high motorcycle. It's also weaker. It's not possible to ride it in two-person with a pillion. The BMW does it very well. It's very versatile. If I imagine a young couple, you can very easily go together on this bike and enjoy the comfort and enjoy some, you know, some adventure or holiday. Royal Enfield Himalayan, I would pick this bike. But I'm only because I'm nostalgic and I like air-cooled engines. But anyone who is 18 to 25 possibly very often will choose the BMW as something which is a modern brand, and there are GS, you know, and brand, and it's just very modern and very old school motorcycle. And I think most of people will probably take BMW, which is also faster and stronger and lighter. So that's a plus point against in comparison to Royal Enfield. We have a Versys 300 Kawasaki, and I think that's a nice competitor to this bike. But the engine is not like enduro-like, which means that you really need to rev it super high to have sort of performance. And maybe for many people, they like, you know, Kawasaki doesn't mean much, the brand, in the enduro and off-road and adventure world. And so people maybe tend to choose the BMW from this point of view. But that's just a guess, and I think the Kawasaki is a strong competitor to BMW GS 310. Last but not least, we have here the Honda CB500X. I tested. It's also called adventure bike, and there is a lot of controversy in my video there. People are saying yes, it is adventure bike and it has the off-road capabilities, but I don't think so. The suspension travel, it's just uncomparable to the BMW. It's purely road bike, and road tires, road wheels and everything. And I think the BMW does off-road way better. But sort of, I think that in a Honda, I think I'm getting bigger amount of motorcycle for the similar money. And especially if you compare the engines to lovely two-cylinder Honda, it's just a whole different story. But in the end of the day, I think the BMW has very interesting segment on the market with this GS, and I think for probably a smaller majority of people, this is the choice.